Before you dive into this heartwarming journey, imagine this. What if a single, accidental moment could change everything you thought you knew about life, loss, and love? If you're ready for a story about healing, unexpected connections, and the magic of second chances, then hit that like button right now. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you never miss another incredible tale. Tell us in the comments, what city are you watching from right now? Chapter 1. The Wrong Flight. The Right Path. A persistent drizzle fell over Heathrow Airport on an endless March morning. Daniel Thompson moved through the main concourse on autopilot, his Italian leather briefcase swinging from his right hand, a counterweight to his thoughts. His bespoke Tom Ford suit couldn't hide the invisible burden that slightly stooped his shoulders, a weight he had carried for exactly 3 years, 2 months, and 15 days. That morning, something was different. For the first time in 2 decades of a meticulously calculated routine, Daniel Thompson made a mistake. He didn't double-check his boarding pass, didn't verify the gate number, didn't realize he was stepping onto the wrong flight. For a man who had built an empire on absolute precision, this would have been unforgivable. But that day, especially that day, he didn't care. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome aboard Flight 3177 bound for Manchester. The voice over the intercom sounded distant, almost irrelevant. Daniel simply closed his eyes. Manchester. Or London. What difference did it make? Since Sophia was gone, no place was truly a destination. Sophia. His little Sophia. The name still burned in his throat like acid. 3 years had passed since the accident, but the pain remained as vivid as that night he received the call from the hospital. His 6-year-old daughter, the only human being who had seen him truly smile, had been snatched from him on a badly calculated curve on a rainy night, very much like this one. "Excuse me, sir. Would you like some coffee?" The voice brought him back to the present. Daniel looked up and found a pair of hazel eyes, observing him with an almost disarming gentleness. The flight attendant had her dark brown hair pulled back in an impeccable bun, but a few rebellious strands framed her face, giving her an air of authenticity that contrasted with the formality of the uniform. Hannah Miller, her name tag read. There was something in her smile that seemed simultaneously rehearsed and genuine, as if, even after years of repeating the same gestures, she still managed to find pleasure in serving coffee to strangers in the sky. "No, thank you," he replied curtly, returning his attention to the window, but something made him look again. Hannah had a tiny, almost imperceptible flower smudge on her uniform sleeve, a detail his analytical mind couldn't ignore. It was then that he truly saw her for the first time, not just the flight attendant, but the woman behind the uniform. There was a story in those eyes, a story that spoke of hidden dreams and honored commitments. Daniel recognized something familiar there, the echo of promises made to people who were no longer present. The plane took off, cutting through London's gray clouds. Daniel tried to concentrate on the financial reports on his laptop, but his eyes insisted on following Hannah through the aisles. There was a grace in her movements, a silent strength he couldn't explain. 2 hours later, she reappeared with a small package in her hands. "I know you declined coffee, but—" She hesitated for a moment. "I made this banana bread last night. It's a tradition of mine on long flights. Would you like to try some?" Daniel wanted to refuse. He wanted to maintain the wall of ice he had built around himself, but something in the gesture, perhaps its simplicity, perhaps its genuine kindness, disarmed him. He accepted a piece. The first taste hit him like a wave of memories. Sophia loved banana bread. They made it together every Sunday. She'd climb on a stool to reach the counter, flour scattered everywhere, laughter echoing through the kitchen. The taste was exactly the same. "Are you all right, sir?" Daniel realized a solitary tear had escaped, betraying decades of self-control. He quickly wiped it away with the back of his hand. "Yes," he replied, his voice rougher than usual. "It's perfect." Hannah smiled, this time a genuine smile that reached her eyes, and continued down the aisle. Daniel watched her walk away, feeling something stir inside him, something that had long been dormant. Then he heard it, a childlike giggle from the back of the plane. He turned instinctively and saw, through the crack between the seats, a little girl of about 4, with sunbeam blonde hair, smiling at a doll. Beside her, an older woman, apparently a nanny, tried to keep her still. Daniel's heart stopped for an instant. The girl's smile was identical to Sophia's. It was at that moment that Daniel Thompson, the man who never made mistakes, silently gave thanks for taking the wrong flight. Chapter 2. A Glimmer of Hope. The disembarkation in Manchester had different colors than usual. The British sun streamed through the airport windows, painting golden shadows on the granite floor, while Daniel deliberately lingered in the line to exit the plane. His eyes followed Hannah, who was saying goodbye to passengers with the same genuine smile that had intrigued him throughout the flight. It was then he saw her hug the blonde girl. "Lily, my love!" Hannah knelt, opening her arms to receive the little girl who ran towards her. "Mommy missed you so much." Daniel felt the air leave his lungs. The flight attendant, the woman of the banana bread and the gentle smile. She was the mother of the girl who so reminded him of Sophia. The universe, he thought, sometimes had a peculiar sense of humor. "Look, Mommy, Nellie let me wear the new dress." Lily twirled, showing off a pink dress with tiny embroidered flowers. The nanny, a woman of about 40, approached with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Nellie is a common name in the UK. It's assumed the doll was named that. "She was impossibly eager to show you," Grace said, adjusting her bag on her shoulder. There was something in her voice, a subtly dissonant note, that made Daniel frown. "Forgive the delay in this month's payment," Hannah whispered to the nanny, thinking no one else could hear. "This week's extra flight will cover everything, I promise." Daniel pretended to search for something in his briefcase, slowing his steps even further. He had learned over the years that people revealed more when they believed no one was paying attention. "Don't worry," Grace replied, but her tone was laden with poorly disguised condescension. "I know how hard it is for you, alone." Raising a child always traveling, Hannah tensed for a moment, but then softened her expression as she saw Lily looking at her. "We're going to stop by the market before going home. I want to make that shepherd's pie you love." "With mashed potatoes and cheese!" Lily's eyes sparkled. "With mashed potatoes and cheese," Hannah confirmed, kissing the tip of her daughter's nose. Daniel watched the scene with a pang in his chest. There was an intimacy there that he recognized, the same one he had shared with Sophia in the simplest moments. Choosing sweets at the candy store, deciding which story to read before bed, planning small adventures that seemed enormous in a child's eyes. Before he could stop himself, he approached. "Excuse me." His voice came out softer than usual. I'd like to thank you for the banana bread." Hannah seemed surprised to see him there. "Oh, I'm glad you liked it. Did you make the banana bread, Mommy?" Lily asked, her blue eyes wide with curiosity. "Yes, my love, for the passengers on the plane. But you didn't make any for me." The little girl pouted adorably, crossing her arms. Daniel couldn't contain a smile, the first genuine one in years. "I think your mom should make wonderful banana bread just for you." Lily studied him with that unique seriousness of children. "Sometimes when she's not flying with the clouds." "Flying with the clouds?" Daniel raised an eyebrow. "That's what she calls my flights," Hannah explained, stroking her daughter's hair. There was a mix of pride and guilt there that Daniel knew well. Grace cleared her throat, drawing attention to herself. "We have to go, Hannah. I have a commitment later. Of course, excuse me. Hannah began to gather the suitcases, but Daniel was quicker. Allow me to help. I'm going in the same direction. He lied, taking the larger suitcase before she could protest. On the way to the parking lot, Lily filled the silence with stories about her week, how she had taught her doll to read, how the neighbor's dog had visited her window, how the stars seemed bigger when her mom was away. Every word was like a small needle in Daniel's heart, reminding him of the stories Sophia would never tell him again. You also fly with the clouds? Lily suddenly asked, looking at Daniel with genuine curiosity. No, he replied, surprised by his own honesty. Actually, today I got lost. But adults don't get lost. The little girl laughed, as if that were the most absurd thing she had ever heard. Sometimes they do get lost, Daniel replied softly. Sometimes they get lost for a long time. Hannah looked at him with the different gaze then, as if for the first time she was seeing beyond the expensive suit and rigid posture. Upon reaching the car, Daniel put the suitcase in the trunk, while Grace settled Lily in her car seat. Before saying goodbye, he pulled a card from his jacket pocket. If you need anything, he hesitated, choosing his words carefully. Anything at all, please don't hesitate to contact me. Hannah took the card, her fingers brushing his lightly. Daniel Thompson, she read aloud. The Daniel Thompson of Thompson Industries? He nodded, preparing for the look of recognition, for the sudden change in demeanor that always accompanied the revelation of who he was. But Hannah just smiled, that same sincere smile from the plane. Thank you for the banana bread, she simply said, returning his own words. Daniel watched the car drive away, Lily waving animatedly from the back window. He stood there, in the airport parking lot, long after the vehicle disappeared from sight. That night, in his hotel room in Manchester, Daniel couldn't sleep. He lay staring at the ceiling, replaying every moment of the day. The taste of the banana bread still lingered in his memory, mixing with memories of Sophia, with Lily's smile, with Hannah's silent strength. He picked up his phone and, for the first time in his life, did something completely impulsive. He changed all his London meetings to video conferences. He decided to stay in Manchester for a few days. Ultimately, he thought, as he watched the city lights from the window, sometimes it was necessary to get lost to find your way back home. Chapter 3. The Nanny's Secret. The small house in the Didsbury neighborhood had the unpretentious charm of Manchester's older constructions. Cream-colored walls faded by time, wooden windows with peeling paint, a modest but well-kept garden. Daniel checked the address on his phone one more time, confirming he was in the right place. He felt strangely nervous, a sensation he hadn't experienced in a long time. 3 days had passed since the encounter at the airport. 3 days in which he couldn't think of anything else but Lily's smile and Hannah's silent strength. After a few calls and discreet inquiries, he found out where they lived. Now, standing in front of the house with a package in his hands, he questioned whether he was overstepping some invisible boundary. It was Grace who opened the door. Mr. Thompson? The nanny's smile was all teeth and fake surprise. What an unexpected honor. From the way she received him, Daniel was certain that his visit wasn't so unexpected. Grace had probably already researched everything about him. His fortune, his influence, his history. Is Hannah here? He asked. Mama. Maintaining formality. Oh, she's at work. Another flight. Grace opened the door wider. But do come in, please. Lily will be delighted to see you. The living room was small but cozy. Photos of Lily at different ages adorned the walls, along with some paintings of rural landscapes. On a shelf, Daniel noticed a photo of Hannah as a teenager next to a man in a pilot's uniform, probably her father. Uncle Daniel! Lily's voice sounded like music. The little girl ran from the kitchen, a miniature apron tied around her waist, flour dusted on her face. "I'm making banana bread just like Mommy." His heart skipped a beat at how she called him. Uncle Daniel. So natural, so spontaneous, as if he somehow belonged there. "Really? And what kind of banana bread are you making?" He knelt to her level, handing her the package he had brought. "I brought something that might help." Lily opened the gift with the typical eagerness of children. Her eyes sparkled at the sight of the illustrated recipe book, specially made for little chefs. "Look, Grace, it has drawings of all the ingredients." The nanny forced a smile. "How kind of Mr. Thompson. But you know, Lily, your mother always says we shouldn't accept gifts from strangers." "But he's not a stranger," Lily protested. "He ate Mommy's banana bread on the plane, and look, it even has a banana bread recipe here." Daniel leafed through the book with her, explaining each illustration. There was something magnetic about the way Lily embraced each discovery, each new possibility. It was how Sophia used to be. "Mr. Thompson?" Grace interrupted, her voice syrupy. "Would you like some coffee? We could chat a bit about Lily and Hannah, you know. I've worked with them for so long." There was something in her tone that deeply unsettled him. Years of dealing with self-serving people had given him a sixth sense for ulterior motives. "Actually," he replied, standing up, "I came to bring something for Hannah, too." He pulled an envelope from his jacket pocket. "Could you give it to her?" Grace took the envelope with poorly disguised eagerness. Of course. I'll make sure to deliver it personally." "Uncle Daniel!" Lily tugged on his sleeve. "Will you come back to see my banana bread when it's ready?" He smiled, feeling that familiar pang in his chest. "Of course I will, but only if your mother allows it, okay?" Leaving the house, Daniel was certain of two things. First, that Grace would open the envelope as soon as he left. Second, that he needed to discover more about that woman. It didn't take long. A few phone calls to the right contacts revealed a disturbing pattern. Grace Silva had worked for 3 other families in the past 5 years. In all of them, the same modus operandi. She approached vulnerable people, usually single mothers, gained their trust, and little by little began to create situations of dependency and manipulation. But what disturbed him most was discovering that she had been investigated for suspected child neglect in her last employment. The case had been dismissed due to lack of evidence, but the testimonies were unsettling. That same night, his phone rang. It was an unknown number. "Daniel Thompson?" He answered with his usual formality. "Mr. Thompson?" Hannah's voice sounded tired. "Excuse me for calling so late. It's just, Grace gave me your envelope." He smiled. As expected, the nanny hadn't resisted her curiosity. "And what did you think?" There was a pause on the other end of the line. "It's very kind of you, but I can't accept it." "Why not?" "Why?" She hesitated. "Because it's too much. A culinary course at one of Manchester's best schools. I can't accept something like that from someone I barely know." "It's not just a gift, Hannah." Daniel chose his words carefully. "It's an investment. I saw how your eyes light up when you talk about cooking, how your hands seem happier holding a wooden spoon than serving coffee on a plane." Another silence, longer this time. "How did you—" she began, her voice breaking. "How did you know that?" "Because I also know what it's like to do something out of obligation when your heart is somewhere else." He took a deep breath. "The course is in the evenings, on the days you're in Manchester." I thought of everything. Hannah sobbed on the other end. Why are you doing this?" Daniel closed his eyes, seeing Sophia's face in his memory. "Because sometimes we need someone to believe in our dreams, as much as we believe in others' dreams." She hesitated again. "I need to think about it." "Of course, take your time." He paused. "Oh, and Hannah?" "Yes?" "Be careful with Grace. Not all smiles are as genuine as yours." Before she could reply, he hung up. Through his hotel room window, Manchester's lights twinkled like earthly stars. Daniel picked up his tablet and began researching rare autoimmune diseases in children. Something in his gut told him he would need that information soon. Chapter 4. A Race Against Time. The small restaurant in Altrincham overlooked the local market. It was a discreet place, with embroidered tablecloths on the tables and a delicious aroma of British spices in the air. Hannah chose a corner table, away from the windows. Her hands kept fiddling with the napkin as she waited. 2 weeks had passed since the late-night call. 2 weeks in which Daniel had visited Lily almost every day, always bringing new books, always arriving when Hannah was on a flight. 2 weeks in which Grace had become increasingly present, more insinuating, more controlling. Apologies for the delay. Daniel's voice brought her back to the present. He was wearing a navy blue suit, more casual than usual, but still out of place in the simple restaurant setting. Thank you for coming. Hannah settled into her chair. I needed to talk to you in person. Daniel sat down, observing how she seemed paler than usual. There were deep, dark circles under her eyes, and her fingers continued to be restless on the table. Something's wrong, he stated. Not asking, Hannah bit her lower lip. Lily's been different, more tired, no appetite. Last week she had a high fever out of nowhere. She took a deep breath. And yesterday I found purple spots on her legs. Daniel's heart froze. They were the same symptoms Sophia had presented at the beginning. Have you seen a doctor? I took her to the health center. They did some tests, but she swallowed. The doctor wants to do more tests. Expensive tests. And don't worry about that. Daniel interrupted softly. I'm going to book an appointment with Dr. Edwards. He's the best pediatric hematologist in the country. I can't accept, Hannah protested, but her voice was weak. I already refused the culinary course, and now, Hannah. Daniel covered her hand with his, surprising both of them with the gesture. Some things are bigger than our pride. She looked at their hands joined on the table, a solitary tear rolling down her face. Grace said you're only doing this because... She stopped, embarrassed. Because? Daniel prompted, though he already guessed the answer. Because Lily reminds you of your daughter. Hannah delicately withdrew her hand. Grace investigated you about the accident. She says it's not healthy, that you're projecting Sophia onto Lily. Daniel felt as if he had been punched in the stomach. It was true, partially, but there was much more to it than that. Your nanny seems to know a lot about me, he commented, keeping his voice controlled. Just as she knew a lot about the other families she worked for. Hannah frowned. Other families? Daniel pulled a thin folder from his briefcase. I found some things you need to see. For the next hour, Hannah read the reports in silence. Her expression changed from surprise to anger, then to fear. When she finished, her hands were trembling. She always insists on giving Lily her medicine, Hannah whispered, as if connecting invisible dots. She says I might make mistakes with the doses because I'm always tired from flights. We need to be careful, Daniel warned. People like Grace are dangerous when they feel threatened. Hannah's phone vibrated. It was a message from Grace, with a photo. Oh my God, Hannah paled even more, showing the screen to Daniel. In the photo, Lily was lying on the sofa, visibly feverish. The message read, "The fever's back. 39.5. I already gave her the medicine I always use." Daniel stood up immediately. Let's go, now. The drive to the house was tense. Hannah tried to call Grace several times, but she didn't answer. When they arrived, they found the door unlocked. Lily? Hannah called, rushing in. The house was silent. Terrifyingly silent. They found Grace calmly organizing a row of medicine bottles in the kitchen. Where's my daughter? Hannah's voice trembled with rage and fear. In her room, sleeping, Grace replied with terrifying nonchalance. I gave her the fever medicine and a calming tea. Daniel was already in the hallway, with Hannah on his heels. Lily was in bed, breathing heavily, her face flushed with fever. "What medicine did you give her?" Daniel asked, checking the child's pulse. "The usual," Grace replied from the doorway, her tone still calm. "I'm just taking care of her, like I always do, like a real mother would." Hannah froze. There was something terribly wrong with the way Grace spoke. "Lydia," Daniel said into his phone, his voice urgent. "I need an ambulance at 237 Willow Lane, Didsbury. 4-year-old girl. High fever. Suspected incorrect medication." He paused. "Yes, I'll make sure she doesn't get away." Grace took a step back, finally realizing the gravity of the situation. "You don't understand," she said, her mask of calm beginning to crack. I just wanted to. "Silence her!" Hannah advanced, years of pent-up rage exploding. "Make her dependent on you! Make me dependent on you!" Daniel held Hannah's arm, preventing her from moving further. In the distance, sirens began to wail. "It's over, Grace," he said simply. "This time, there's proof." The next few minutes were a blur. Paramedics entering, police arriving, Grace being taken for questioning. But all Hannah could see was her little Lily, so fragile on the ambulance stretcher. "Come." Daniel guided her to his car. "We'll follow the ambulance." On the way to the hospital, between tears and sobs, Hannah finally asked, "Why did you stay? Why didn't you leave after that flight?" Daniel kept his eyes on the ambulance ahead, his hands gripping the steering wheel. "Because sometimes," he replied softly, "fate gives us a second chance to do the right thing." The storm was just beginning. Chapter 5. A new diagnosis. St. Jude's Hospital was one of Manchester's most modern. Its aseptic, silent corridors contrasted with the emotional chaos Daniel and Hannah had been living through for the past 72 hours. 3 days of intensive tests, 3 sleepless nights, 3 mornings waiting for answers that seemed to never come. Daniel had moved heaven and earth. A call to London brought Dr. Charles Edwards on a private jet. Another mobilized an entire team of specialists. Money, which had always been just numbers on a screen for him, finally had a purpose that made his heart ache. "Mr. Thompson." A young nurse found him in the cafeteria where he was trying to convince Hannah to eat something. "Dr. Edwards would like to see you in his office." The doctor's desk overlooked the hospital's internal garden. Natural light streamed softly through the large windows, as if trying to lighten the weight of the news to come. "Please have a seat." Dr. Edwards was a man in his 50s, with kind eyes behind thin-rimmed glasses. "The test results are in." Hannah instinctively grabbed Daniel's hand. He intertwined his fingers with hers, offering the silent support they both needed. "Lily has been diagnosed with a rare autoimmune condition," the doctor began, his voice calm and professional. "Evans syndrome. Her body is attacking its own blood cells." "That," Hannah swallowed. "That can be cured, right?" "It's a chronic but treatable condition," Dr. Edwards explained. "With the correct medication protocol and adequate follow-up, many patients achieve a good quality of life." Daniel felt Hannah tremble beside him. "And the treatment?" she asked, her voice almost a whisper. The doctor removed his glasses, cleaning them methodically before answering. "It's a complex treatment and expensive. It involves immunosuppressants, regular transfusions, constant monitoring." "How much?" Hannah asked, already letting go of Daniel's hand. "The initial monthly cost," Dr. Edwards hesitated. "It doesn't matter," Daniel interrupted. "Everything is already arranged." "No." Hannah stood abruptly. "Excuse me, Dr. Edwards. Could you give us a moment?" As soon as the doctor left, Hannah turned to Daniel, her eyes shining with unshed tears. "I can't accept that," she said, her voice trembling. "It's too much. It's what needs to be done," Daniel completed softly. "And before you talk about pride or debts, I need to tell you something." He stood up, walking to the window. The garden below was full of children from the pediatric ward. Some in wheelchairs, others with masks, all smiling under the afternoon sun. Sophia was 6 years old when she started showing the same symptoms, he began, his voice laden with old pain. Unexplained fever, purple spots, fatigue. I had all the money in the world, Hannah, all the influence, all the resources. He paused, taking a deep breath. But I was too busy with a multi-million-dollar merger. I thought it was nothing serious, that the nanny would take care of it, that my assistant would schedule the necessary tests. His hands clenched into fists. When I finally understood the seriousness of the situation, it was too late. What began as an autoimmune disease transformed into something much worse due to lack of adequate treatment. Hannah approached him, touching his arm gently. "Daniel, I'm not doing this out of pity or guilt," he continued, turning to face her. "I'm doing this because, for the first time since Sophia left, I feel like I can make a difference, that I can use everything I have for something that truly matters." Tears streamed freely down Hannah's face now. "But it's so much money." "Money is just money," he replied, wiping a tear from her face with his thumb. "Lily is life. She's the future. She's—" "Mommy?" A sleepy little voice interrupted them. Lily was at the office door, in her wheelchair, accompanied by a nurse. "My love." Hannah ran to her daughter, kneeling beside her. "How are you feeling?" "Tired," Lily replied, her blue eyes less bright than usual. "But Nurse Lucy says I can go to the garden to see the birdies if I stay in the chair." Daniel approached, adjusting the blanket over the little girl's legs. "How about we all go together? We can count how many different birdies we find." Lily's face lit up. "Like we do with the clouds?" "Like we do with the clouds," he confirmed, smiling. In the garden, sitting on a bench under a flamboyant tree, Daniel and Hannah watched Lily eagerly point to every bird she saw, inventing fantastic names for each one. "That one there is a sleepy mockingbird," she declared, pointing to a gray bird, "because he keeps nodding off on the branch just like I do in class." Daniel laughed, a sound that still surprised him every time it escaped his lips. Beside him, Hannah watched her daughter with a mix of love and concern. "She's going to need to stop studying for a while," Hannah murmured, "and I'm going to need to stop flying." "I've already thought about that," Daniel replied softly. "There's a vacant apartment in the medical building, right next to the hospital. It's closer for treatment and—" "Daniel," Hannah interrupted him, turning to face him. "Why are you doing all this? Really?" He was silent for a moment, watching Lily try to convince Nurse Lucy that a sparrow was actually an enchanted prince in disguise. "Because when I got on that wrong plane," he finally replied, "I was running away from life, from memories, from myself, and then—" He smiled softly. "Then a flight attendant offered me a piece of banana bread, and her daughter laughed in a way that made my heart remember what it felt like to feel something other than pain." Hannah rested her head on his shoulder, a gesture so natural that neither of them noticed immediately. "I still don't know how I'm going to pay for all this," she whispered. "How about starting with more banana bread recipes?" he suggested, making her laugh through her tears. "Mommy, Uncle Daniel," Lily called excitedly. "Look, a dancing hummingbird!" They both stood up and walked to where Lily was. The small hummingbird danced among the garden flowers, its wings shining under the afternoon sun. "Did you know that hummingbirds are the only birds that can fly backward?" Daniel commented, kneeling beside Lily's chair. "Really?" The little girl's eyes widened in admiration. "Really," he confirmed. "Sometimes, to find the right path, we need to learn to fly in different directions." Hannah watched the two of them, feeling something warm spread through her chest. Maybe Daniel was right. Maybe sometimes they needed to get completely lost to find exactly where they were supposed to be. On the horizon, dark clouds approached Manchester. But for the first time in a long time, neither of them was afraid of the storm to come. Chapter 6. A Home for All Seasons. The apartment in the medical building overlooked the sunrise. Hannah watched the sky change colors through the kitchen window as she prepared pancakes, Lily's favorite. It had been a month since the move, a month since she had left the skies to dedicate herself fully to her daughter. The new pots and utensils Daniel had provided gleamed on the counter, like silent promises of a different future. The sweet aroma of vanilla and cinnamon filled the air when the doorbell rang. It was early, too early for visitors. Hannah frowned, wiping her hands on her apron before answering. "Ms. Miller." A bailiff stood at her door, an envelope in his hand. "I need you to sign here." Hannah's heart froze as she read the document's contents. It was a summons. Grace was suing her for defamation and emotional damages. The value of the lawsuit was astronomical, clearly calculated to cause maximum possible harm. "Mommy?" Lily's sleepy voice came from the hallway. "Who are you talking to?" "No one important, love." Hannah forced a smile, closing the door. "Come, the pancakes are almost ready." But her hands were trembling so much that she could barely hold the spatula. How dare Grace? After everything she had done, after the evidence, after... Her phone vibrated. A message from Daniel. "I'm on my way up. Brought the coffee you like." Lately, he had been appearing almost every morning before going to the office. Sometimes he brought coffee, sometimes freshly baked pastries, sometimes just his smile that seemed to light up the whole room. Hannah had never admitted it out loud, but those mornings had become her favorite part of the day. "Uncle Daniel!" Lily cheered when he entered, running to hug him, even with the IV drip in her arm. "Princess." He picked her up carefully, always mindful of the tubes and connections. "How are you feeling today?" "Strong like a flying sea wolf." Daniel laughed. Lily's imaginary animals were getting more and more creative. "And does this flying sea wolf like hot chocolate?" He pulled a small package from the bag he had brought. "With marshmallows?" Her eyes sparkled. "With marshmallows," he confirmed, gently placing her in the chair. It was then he noticed the tension on Hannah's face. "What's wrong?" She simply handed him the envelope, returning her attention to the pancakes that were starting to burn. Daniel read the document in silence, his jaw clenched. "Don't worry about that," he finally said. "I'm already calling my lawyers." "No." Hannah turned off the stove with more force than necessary. "I can't accept any more help, Daniel. You've already done too much. Lily's treatment, this apartment, the doctors, Hannah." "No." She turned to him, tears of frustration in her eyes. "Don't you understand? People are talking, at the hospital, in the building. Everyone whispers when we pass. They say I'm an opportunist, that I'm using my daughter for—" "Mommy?" Lily interrupted, her big eyes full of concern. "Why are you crying?" Hannah quickly wiped away her tears. "It's nothing, love. Mommy just cut an onion." "But there aren't any onions in pancakes," Lily observed, with the brutal honesty of children. Daniel knelt beside Lily's chair. "Hey, princess, how about we go to the balcony and see if we can find any flying sea wolves?" "Really?" Once they were alone, Hannah broke down. She told him about the stares, the cruel comments, the insinuations. How a nurse had suggested she was lucky to find a rich benefactor. How the neighbor from 402 had commented loud enough for her to hear that some women would do anything for money. Daniel listened in silence, his heart aching. When she finished, he took her hands in his. "Marry me," Hannah blinked. Sure, she had misunderstood. "What?" "Marry me," he repeated, his voice softer. "Not because of the comments, not for the money, not for what others think." He squeezed her hands. "Marry me, because when I wake up in the morning, my first thought is to come here. Because when Lily laughs, I feel like I can breathe again. Because when you cook, I see colors I thought I had lost forever." "Daniel." She tried to pull her hands away, but he held them tighter. "Don't answer now," he continued, "but know that I'm not proposing out of pity or obligation. I'm proposing because for the first time in 3 years, I feel like I have a home again, and that home is with you both." The silence that followed was interrupted by a noise from the balcony. Lily had spilled her hot chocolate. "Sorry," she cried, looking about to cry. Hannah and Daniel rushed to help her, cleaning up the mess together. As Daniel changed Lily's stained clothes, Hannah watched him, the gentleness of his large hands adjusting the little girl's dress, the patience with which he listened to her wild stories, the genuine love that overflowed from every gesture. Later, after Lily fell asleep during her transfusion session, Hannah found Daniel in the hospital corridor. "Yes," she simply said. He frowned, confused. Yes, I'll marry you." She smiled, a smile that reached her eyes. Not for the money, not for the comments, not for what others think, but because when you walk through the door, the world seems lighter. Because when you read stories to Lily, I see the father I always dreamed of for her. Because, she took a deep breath, because I love you, and that scares me more than any lawsuit. Daniel pulled her into his arms, right there in the hospital corridor. Some nurses passed by smiling, but this time Hannah didn't care about the stares. "With one condition," she murmured against his chest. "What?" "The wedding banana bread has to be my recipe." Daniel laughed, a rich, deep sound that echoed through the corridor. "Deal, but only if you teach me how to make it." That night, after Lily finally fell asleep in her room decorated with stars on the ceiling, Hannah found an envelope under her door. Inside was an old photo, a brown-haired girl hugging a banana bread. On the back, in Daniel's elegant handwriting, was written, "Sophia always said love tasted like banana bread." Now I understand what she meant. "To my two guiding stars, with all my love, Daniel." Hannah held the photo close to her heart, feeling that she was finally home. Not in the apartment, not in Manchester, but there, in that love that tasted of banana bread and the sound of a child's laughter. Outside, the city slept under a starry sky, and somewhere, a dancing hummingbird, or perhaps a flying sea wolf, made its nest, preparing for a new dawn. Chapter 7. Building a New Constellation. The old house in Chorlton, Manchester, had the charm of colonial mansions. Daniel had bought it 2 weeks ago, right after the engagement, and a team of architects was working day and night to transform it into the home he had dreamed of for his new family. In the spacious yard, a special project was taking shape, a professional kitchen with a garden view, specially designed for Hannah. On that Sunday afternoon, while the workers rested, Daniel took Hannah and Lily to see the progress of the renovations. Lily, stronger after the last treatment cycle, ran through the empty rooms, her laughter echoing through the old walls. "And this," Daniel said, opening a double door on the second floor, "will be your room, princess." Lily stopped, wide-eyed. The room was immense, with floor-to-ceiling windows framing the Manchester skyline. On the ceiling, artists had begun to paint a detailed night sky with real and imaginary constellations, including one that suspiciously resembled a flying sea wolf. "It's bigger than the sky," Lily exclaimed, spinning with open arms. "And here," Daniel continued, pointing to a side door, "will be a special room for treatment days, with all the necessary equipment so you don't have to sleep at the hospital." Hannah squeezed his hand, speechless. In recent days, Lily's hospitalizations had become more frequent, more intense. The idea of being able to care for her at home, in a familiar and cozy environment, was more than she had ever dared to dream of. "And there's one more surprise." Daniel smiled, guiding them to the terrace. Up there, a glass greenhouse occupied half the space. Inside it, dozens of pots awaited planting. "For your herb garden," he explained to Hannah. "You always talk about having fresh ingredients for your recipes, Daniel," Hannah began, but was interrupted by the shrill sound of her cell phone. It was Dr. Edwards. The doctor's voice was grave. "We need to talk. Lily's latest tests." The world seemed to slow down. Daniel watched Hannah's face turn pale as she listened, her whole body trembling. Lily, oblivious to the tension, played, counting clouds through the greenhouse glass. "We'll be there in 20 minutes, Hannah finally replied, hanging up the phone. "What happened?" "The treatment." She swallowed. "It's not working as expected. They need to try something more aggressive." Daniel nodded, his face a mask of calm he didn't feel. "I'll get Lily." In the car, the child fell asleep almost instantly, one of the side effects of the medication she was taking. Hannah watched her through the rearview mirror, memorizing every detail of her pale face. "She's strong," Daniel said softly, covering Hannah's hand with his. "Like her mother." At the hospital, while Lily underwent new tests, Dr. Edwards explained the situation in his office. The current treatment protocol wasn't having the desired effect. The disease was advancing silently and relentlessly. "There's a new therapy," the doctor explained, adjusting his glasses. "Still experimental, but with promising results in cases like Lily's." "What are the risks?" Daniel asked, his voice controlled. "Considerable. The treatment is aggressive, and her immune system is already compromised." Dr. Edwards paused. "But without it, the outlook is not good." Hannah let out a contained sob. Daniel pulled her closer, offering his shoulder for support. "How much?" she asked. Her voice choked. "The treatment is experimental," the doctor replied cautiously. "It's not covered by any plan. And being in the United States, you'll need to make arrangements." Daniel interrupted. "All of them. I want the best team and the best hospital, everything." Later, while Lily slept in her hospital room after another battery of tests, Hannah found Daniel in his makeshift desk in the hospital, surrounded by papers and an open laptop. "What are you doing?" "Preparing our defense," he replied, without taking his eyes off the screen. "And more than that, I'm going to make sure she never comes near another child again." Hannah approached, seeing dozens of records, testimonies, the hospital documents. "How did you get all that so fast?" "I have my resources." He gave a half smile. "And apparently, a lot of people were waiting for an opportunity to speak." A noise at the door interrupted them. It was Lily, dragging her plush bear and IV pole. "I couldn't sleep," she murmured, rubbing her eyes. "Can I stay here with you both?" Daniel immediately closed the laptop, opening his arms. Lily snuggled into his lap, while Hannah adjusted the IV line to avoid tangling. "Did you know that stars also get sick sometimes?" Lily asked sleepily. "Really?" Daniel smiled, exchanging a look with Hannah. "Yes, Nurse Lucy told me. They get thin and it looks like they're going to go out." The little girl yawned. "But there are other stars that send light to them until they get strong again." Hannah felt tears in her eyes. Even in the most difficult moments, her daughter found ways to see beauty in the world. "And you know what else?" Lily continued, her eyes already heavy with sleep. "The stars that were helped shine brighter afterward. To say thank you." Daniel kissed the top of her head, smelling the gentle scent of her children's shampoo. "Then you're going to be the brightest star in the sky, princess. But only after the new treatment, right?" Lily murmured, almost asleep. "The one you and Mommy were whispering about, thinking I didn't know?" Hannah and Daniel exchanged surprised glances. As always, Lily understood more than they imagined. "Yes, my love," Hannah replied softly. "After the new treatment." "Okay," the little girl sighed. "But I want to bring my astronaut bear. He knows all the stars." In minutes, Lily was sleeping deeply in Daniel's lap. He held her as if she were the most precious treasure in the world, and in a way, she was. "We're going to make it," he whispered, more to himself than to Hannah. "We have to make it." Hannah approached, embracing both of them. There, in the silence of a hospital office, cradled by Lily's soft breathing. They were more than fiancés, more than caregivers, more than survivors of their own tragedies. They were a family that would face any storm, any lawsuit, any experimental treatment on the other side of the world. Because sometimes, as Lily said, it was necessary to help the stars shine again, and they would do exactly that together. Chapter 8. The Sweet Taste of Home. 2 years later, the aroma of banana bread filled the professional kitchen of the house in Chorlton. Hannah adjusted the personalized apron she had received as a gift. Chef Hannah, flavors of the heart, embroidered in gold letters, as she watched her little assistant diligently whisk the batter. "More cinnamon, Mommy?" Lily asked, her blonde hair now long and shiny, tied in an elaborate braid. Her cheeks were flushed with health, her blue eyes sparkling with the same energy as always, but now without the shadow of fatigue that used to darken them. "Just a little bit more," Hannah smiled, helping her with the measurement. "Remember what Daddy always says? The secret is in the details," Lily recited, imitating Daniel's solemn tone. It had been 6 months since they had definitively returned from the United States, after 18 months of experimental treatment, 18 months of anguish, hope, small victories, and great transformations. The treatment had been a success. The doctors called it complete remission, but for them, it was simply a miracle. During that period, many things changed. The wedding, initially planned to be a grand celebration in Manchester, took place in an intimate ceremony in Boston, with Lily as maid of honor and flower girl. Daniel had insisted on keeping the banana bread tradition, importing all the specific ingredients Hannah used. It was also during that time that the lawsuit against Grace finally came to an end. The evidence gathered by Daniel and the testimonies of the nurses were overwhelming. The ex-nanny now faced not only civil, but also criminal charges, with evidence of negligence and manipulation in various cases over the years. "Mommy?" Lily's voice brought her back to the present. "Do you think Sophia would like our banana bread?" Hannah felt her heart squeeze sweetly. Since Daniel had told the full story of his first daughter, Lily had developed a special connection with the memory of the sister she never knew. In her room, next to the painting of the starry sky, there was now a framed photo of Sophia. "I'm sure she would, my love," Hannah replied, kissing the top of her daughter's head. "Especially because it has the secret ingredient." "Love?" Lily laughed, reciting what had become a family mantra. The sound of the kitchen door opening announced Daniel's arrival. He was still wearing his impeccable work suit, but now his eyes had a different sparkle, softer, more alive. What a wonderful smell that is," he approached, embracing both of them from behind. "We're making the banana bread. Special," Lily explained excitedly, "for the grand opening." Ah, yes, the grand opening. The dream that had begun with a culinary course had grown and transformed. In a few days, the Memories Delights, an intimate restaurant at the back of the house, would open its doors. The menu, created entirely by Hannah, was a celebration of comforting recipes, each dish telling a story of love and overcoming. "And that reminds me." Daniel pulled an envelope from his pocket. It arrived today. Hannah took the envelope with trembling hands. It was the final result of Lily's latest tests, a confirmation that the nightmare had truly ended. "Open it, Mommy." Lily jumped eagerly, scattering flour everywhere. Hannah's eyes scanned the document, tears beginning to form. "It's all perfect," she whispered. "All of it." Daniel hugged her tightly while Lily danced around the kitchen, leaving flour footprints wherever she went. "This deserves a special celebration," he declared. "How about we—" "I know," Lily interrupted. "Let's have a picnic in the greenhouse garden with banana bread and star stories." It was impossible to say no to that enthusiasm. Soon, A blanket was spread among the aromatic herb pots, plates and cutlery carefully arranged, the freshly baked banana bread exuding its irresistible aroma. "Tell it again," Lily asked, snuggled between her parents, a generous slice of banana bread on her plate. "How you met." Daniel and Hannah exchanged knowing smiles. It was her favorite story, requested and repeated hundreds of times. "All right," Daniel began, his voice soft. "It was an ordinary morning, and I had taken the wrong plane." "The rightest plane of your life," Lily corrected, as she always did at that part. "Yes, the rightest plane of my life," he agreed, winking at Hannah. "And there was this beautiful flight attendant, with a smile that seemed to light up the whole plane, and she had made banana bread. And when I tasted that banana bread," Daniel continued, holding Hannah's hand, "something inside me awakened. Something that had been sleeping for a long time." "Your heart!" Lily exclaimed. "Sophia always said love tasted like banana bread, right?" "Exactly," Daniel smiled, looking at the sky that was beginning to show its first stars. "And you know what? She was right." At that moment, as if by magic, a hummingbird flew over the garden, dancing among the freshly planted flowers. Lily clapped her hands and chanted, "Look! It's the same one from 2 years ago, the one that knows how to fly backward and forward," Hannah gently added, "like life should be." Daniel watched his 2 guiding stars, feeling a peace he never believed possible again. The business empire continued to exist, but now it was managed with different values, different priorities. The fortune that once seemed empty of meaning had found its true purpose: to create memories, heal wounds, build happiness. "Did you know there's a new constellation on my ceiling?" Lily commented, nibbling her banana bread. "Daddy had it painted last week. It's our family's constellation." "Really?" Hannah asked curiously. "And what does it look like?" "It has 4 stars, Lily explained, drawing in the air with her finger. "One is me, one is Mommy, one is Daddy, and one is Sophia. That way we're never alone, even when the sky is cloudy." Daniel felt his eyes moisten. He was sure Sophia would approve, not just of the constellation, but of everything. The new family, the rekindled love, the chance to be a father again, to do differently, to do better. "And you know what the best part is?" Lily continued, her eyes sparkling with sleep and happiness. "Our constellation is shaped like a banana bread." Laughter echoed through the garden, while the sky filled with stars, real and imaginary, old and new, all shining with the same intensity over that family that was built from the improbable, from the unexpected, from the wrong flight that proved to be so right. Days later, at the grand opening of The Memories Delights, banana bread held a place of honor on the menu. Beside the description, a small note told its story. "They say love has many flavors. For our family, it tastes like banana bread. The recipe that united a lost man, a dreaming woman, and a little girl who believes in flying sea wolves. Dedicated to the memory of Sophia, who taught us that sometimes you have to get lost to find your way back home. With love, Hannah, Daniel, and Lily Thompson." And high above, beyond the clouds, far above the planes crossing the Manchester sky, 4 stars shone in the shape of a banana bread. A unique constellation, visible only to those who believe that love, like hummingbirds, knows how to fly in all directions. I hope you enjoyed today's story. If you did, please subscribe to the channel so you don't miss more stories like this. Give it a like, and comment below what you thought of the story. We'll see you in the next video.